What can we do for you? What does WatchDuty need?
Computers are cheap to operate, but rebuilding 12,000 homes and restoring lives that are lost is just not possible. I think the best thing to do is give money to direct relief efforts like directrelief.org and others who are on the ground helping.
This is why I love you. I ask you, how do we help you? And you ask us to give to other people. I mean,
that's what I do, right?
When the wildfires erupted in Los Angeles on January 7th, 2025, people were frantic. We didn't know where to get information. We didn't know if or when we had to evacuate. At the beginning, we got information through sort of an informal whisper network. Did you hear? We'd say to each other. Then we found WatchDuty. This one magical, elegant app told us everything we needed to know. And it was up to date, and it was accurate. And we all had it. We checked it constantly. It was a lifeline, literally. Evacuation orders, fire perimeters, and wind directions, all of it faster and clearer than any government site or news outlet. And we owe it all to tech entrepreneur John Mills. John coded WatchDuty himself to help his community after a series of deadly fires came close to destroying his own home in Northern California. Today, the app serves millions of people. It operates in multiple states and relies on scores of trained volunteers who gather data from radio scanners and other sources to get the information out. The app has skyrocketed in popularity, and John has no intention of selling it, because the value, as he explains it, is bigger than any paycheck. We live in a world where too many put themselves before others. So how can we be more like John Mills? How can we inspire more people to serve those who serve others? I think John may have the answer. This is a bit of optimism. John, thank you so much for doing this. I know that your life has been extremely busy. How did you find yourself in this position where all of us in Los Angeles were glued to your app more than anything else? Why you, and how do you find yourself here now?
Why me? Well, they say that luck is the intersection of opportunity and preparedness. And I have the unique opportunity to be able to do this with my life and dedicate my life to this work. And I've been through a couple of pretty close calls here on my ranch. Fires come very close to me. One was a 50,000 acre fire that ended about a quarter mile from my property. Another one was a quarter mile away in the other direction. That was another fire that I wasn't alerted about. The helicopters are how I knew there was a fire, not because anybody told me. And so
the world is burning outside of your home and you find out about it because you see a fire helicopter fly over you.
Yeah, that's how you get alerted. Yeah.
That's a good motivation to try and want to do something.
Sure, why not?
Or at least, okay, but hold on. That's a motivation for a lot of people to complain. That's a motivation for a lot of people to get angry. That's a motivation for a lot of people to yell at their mayor or congressman or whoever. You then went and built an app to give yourself the information you needed.
I don't know. It felt like it would be more fun, you know?
You're an engineer, right?
I'm an engineer and a product person, yes.
I'm trying to understand how you found yourself in this situation. Isn't this what the authorities, what the governments, what the local government's supposed to provide? Aren't they supposed to provide us the information we need to stay safe and know what's going on?
You would think so.
That's what I mean by why you. Like it shouldn't have to be you.
That is correct. My friends are joking. I just had an article about me, like the LA, the Hollywood Reporter, and I said I'm building this out of spite, and they sent me the episode of Larry David who makes the spite store to spite the coffee guy next door. Spite's a powerful motivator. I mean, really, I do it out of love, but also just out of disdain for like this lack of good technology in the government, right? They still call it IT, right? It's kind of like a derogatory term, like the guy who fixes your printer, you know what I mean? Rather than actual like serious infrastructure that has held up the internet or held up cell towers. Like this is critical infrastructure that must exist. And so I just knew they weren't going to do it. And I could just complain on the internet, but that would have been boring.
And I think people have to understand that the LA fires this is not your first rodeo. Like WatchDuty is already dare I say, an essential app in a lot of other places. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we started in just Lake Sonoma, Napa counties, where I live in Sonoma. About 2021 is when I first launched it. And since then, I mean, I'm in 1 in every 2 or 3 phones in most counties in Northern California already who experience fire, right? We have mass adoption throughout these areas. And there's been some pretty fast moving wind driven fires, and everybody knows. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough adoption in LA until now.
Why does yours work? I mean, putting the tech aside, that the tech works, why does it work? Because you're basically consolidating information that comes from a lot of other places that is fairly accurate and fairly up to date.
That's actually the easy part, right? So as a technologist, the challenge isn't to go and just scrape all these government websites and to make a beautiful product and package, et cetera. Like, people know how to do that, right? Like, Silicon Valley is very good at getting your attention and keeping it, making sure you doom scroll endlessly and then buy a bunch of random stuff that you don't need, right? Like, it's very good at that. But the magic is actually in the people. And what I mean by the people are these radio operators and reporters who are listening to fire scanners constantly. So those folks in real time are hearing everything and disseminating that information across the application via push notifications. So that news feed is coming from human beings who are spending their days and nights hearing the fire ground. And that's what the magic actually is. There's nothing else to it. Anyone could have done what I did. The hard part was to find these people who were just bound by their own like sheer will and the desire to help people. And so that was the really key insight here. That's the data that's missing.
So it begs 2 questions. A, tech is obsessed with AI, and AI seems to be the answer to absolutely everything. And yet you chose to go human. Why human and not automation?
Well, in my opinion, AI is unable to do this job right now. It's just not there yet. That might be a reality in the future, but we do use some AI, and we use that to help do signal to noise processing, right? So we do have a lot of AI that are scraping and scanning government websites that are trying to interpret random things, and they feed that information into Slack where the human beings are able to see it and interpret it. So to answer your question shortly, I don't think it's ready yet. And then finally, like, even if it was ready, I would be concerned about mistakes being made. And I just don't like that idea right now. It's life and safety. You know, this isn't like a silly chatbot helping you write a paper or something, right? This is like, do I run east or west when I leave my house or not? It's a little bit too dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's a little bit like autopilot, right? Which is, I think every single one of us is fine with computers helping pilots fly the plane. But at the end of the day, we like the idea that there's 2 pilots sitting there evaluating the automation. I think we trust people sometimes more than we trust computers, which I think is a good thing. And then how, again, playing off the Silicon Valley very much is about a business model, an IPO, giving everybody equity, to get people to work hard, to get to that quote unquote liquidity event that everybody's obsessed with. And yet you are a not-for-profit who the people who work with you so hard are volunteers. What was it about starting a not-for-profit and versus the traditional Silicon Valley route? And then how did you get the people to sign up?
So we do have some paid staff, obviously, like any nonprofit does. We had 0 for the first 18 months. It was just a bunch of volunteers. So let's start there, right? So these radio operators were already doing this job on Facebook and Twitter, right? The first really big mega fire was the Valley Fire, I think 2015 or so. And then we had the Tubbs in 2017, and Paradise was either 18 or 19, I believe. And so we've had these series of events that have driven these radio reporters to start putting this information out on Facebook and Twitter. And they were doing this for free anyway, right? Some had,
just concerned citizens.
Correct. And again, some were ex and active retired firefighters and all different types of people. It's kind of all over the board. So they were already doing a nonprofit, right? Like, some of them had Ko-Fi links to buy them, $5 cup of coffee, but they were doing this because it's a hobby, right? Like, why do Wikipedia do this for free? Right? Like, why are there like Redditors who are like just avid geeks about keeping their subreddit community organized and clean? It's like, it's in their hearts to do this. And so taking that idea, like, of course they want to do a nonprofit. It's in their heart to do it that way. And so for me, like on a very personal level, I understand why they do that. I feel their pain. This shouldn't be for sale. This can't stop. right? Maybe one day the government will do it and we'll stop. A nonprofit's job should be to finish its job and delete itself. That would be ideal, right? The program finishes running and then it gets deleted. But unfortunately, we're in a growing industry, as my friends like to remind me.
What can we do for you? What does WatchDuty need? What do you need from us? What do you like? How can we help? How do we support you?
Well, the community is supporting us. I mean, it's amazing to get, such amounts of funding in such a short period of time. And obviously donations are super important to keep our operation running. It's hard to ask because right now the relief efforts are going to take, almost a decade. I mean, we still have towns around me that have not been rebuilt. And so part of it is challenging for me to ask for anything else rather than give money to direct relief, because WatchDuty is a capital efficient business. We will continue to operate and not stop. We are in the business of bits, not atoms, right? Computers are cheap to operate, but rebuilding 12,000 homes and restoring lives that are lost is just not possible. I think the best thing to do is give money to direct relief efforts like directrelief.org and others who are on the ground helping.
This is why I love you. I ask you, how do we help you? And you ask us to give to other people. I mean,
that's what I do, right?
John, seriously, man, you bring me to tears. You bring me to tears.
You're going to make me cry. I've had a fucking hard week, man.
You okay?
I'm exhausted. Yeah, I'll be all right.
Okay?
I've had a couple hard ones, but it's it'll be all right eventually.
What happened?
I mean, you just have some days you're just so proud of what you're doing, and then you're just in the shower fucking crying because people running for their lives. It's tough because I'm looking out my window and behind me is my forest, and it's going to be overrun with fire again, and so. It's not my turn right now, but it's going to be my turn again. And so it's just the cycle of life. I'm just come to grips with it,
You know, one of the weirdest experiences I had in all of this is two incredibly weird things that happened to me. One was as the evacuation zones got closer to us, and we got very lucky. The wind changed direction, but they were creeping towards us, and even though they didn't reach us, we didn't get to yellow. We were one zone away from yellow. You start preparing. And I walked around my house and I started saying thank you to my stuff. Like I went through this crazy gratitude. Like one of my favorite paintings in the world that I've owned for years, hanging on my wall, it's too big for me to put in a car. And I look at it and I said, thank you. Thank you so much for the joy. I'm going to cry.
Right.
I went through this crazy gratitude practice, and it was and it's whether the stuff survived or didn't.